Watch the people around you at work, not the loud ones. Watch the ones who've gone quiet. The one who used to speak first in meetings, now taking notes. The one who used to stay late fixing problems nobody asked them to fix. Now gone the second the clock allows it. I'm Dre. Years inside hiring rooms taught me that quiet employee isn't calm. They're finished. And by the time their manager notices, it's already too late to fix. Today I'm breaking down why silence is more dangerous than anger and how to spot it before it costs you everything. Most people walk into a job believing something simple. If you work hard enough, someone will notice. If you solve problems quietly and stay professional, fairness eventually catches up. It's a reasonable thing to believe. It's also the belief that quietly sets you up to be used. Here's what years of sitting inside performance and compensation conversations taught me. A company does not remember the way you remember. You remember the weekend you gave up to save a project. The system doesn't log that. It just learns you're available on weekends. You remember staying late to catch a mistake before it became a disaster. The system doesn't reward the disaster that never happened. It just expects you to keep catching it for free, indefinitely, without being asked. Here's something almost nobody explains to you early enough in a career. The better you get at your job, the more invisible your effort becomes. Not because people are ungrateful, but because good work erases its own evidence. When you catch a problem before it explodes, there's no explosion left for anyone to point to. No fire, no crisis, no story for the next meeting. Just a normal, quiet day. And normal days don't get remembered, let alone rewarded. So you keep absorbing the last-minute requests. You keep covering for the teammate who never quite pulls their weight. You keep telling yourself, this is what being valuable looks like. But there's a real difference between being valued and being useful. And most people don't find out which one they actually are until it's too late to matter. Here's how you actually spot this shift, whether you're watching it happen in yourself or in someone on your team. It rarely starts with a bad attitude. It starts with silence in the exact moments where someone used to speak up. A question they'd normally answer goes unanswered. A risk they'd normally flag gets left alone. They stop volunteering for the stretch project. They stop staying 5 extra minutes to wrap something up properly. None of it looks like a problem on its own. That's exactly why almost nobody catches it in time. It's not one red flag. It's the slow disappearance of a dozen small ones. And by the time they add up, the person watching usually assumes everything is fine because nothing dramatic happened. Eventually, almost everyone hits the same moment. You say 4 words you've never said before. I can't take this on. Watch what happens next, because it tells you everything you need to know. The room gets colder. People who called you dependable last week suddenly reach for a different word. Difficult. Nothing about you changed in that moment. What changed is that you stopped being convenient, and the mask slipped just enough to show what was underneath it the whole time. In pretty much every workplace pattern I've studied from the inside, that reaction is the tell. People who valued your work understand a boundary. People who valued your availability punish you the second you set one. Here's where it gets harder to ignore once you see it. The coworker who misses every deadline gets called laid back. The one who spends more time networking than working somehow gets promoted first. The person who actually caused the mess gets pulled into the meeting about how to clean it up, while you get feedback about your tone for simply naming the problem out loud. No workplace has to announce that it's unfair. It shows you through who gets protected and who gets blamed. And once you notice that pattern, you start remembering every warning you gave that nobody bothered to act on. Maybe you already said something months earlier, something like, "This isn't sustainable. We need more support." And maybe the answer sounded kind, but changed absolutely nothing underneath it. We hear you. Let's revisit this later. You're doing amazing, though. Kind words, zero action. Here's the translation I want you to actually sit with. When an organization hears a warning like that and does nothing, what it's really telling you is that your strain is affordable to ignore. That single moment plants a seed most people don't notice growing until it's already fully formed months later. So you stop warning them. Not because the problem disappeared, because it didn't. You just stop handing out free insight to people who've already shown you they won't use it. And here's the mistake almost every manager makes at exactly this stage. They read silence as peace. No complaints must mean everything's fine. It's the opposite. The problem you flagged is still sitting there, quietly getting worse, like a hairline crack behind a painting nobody's bothered to move in years. Eventually, it breaks wide open, and your manager stands in the middle of the damage, asking the one question that should honestly embarrass him. Why didn't anyone warn us about this? You did. He just wasn't listening then, and you're not about to remind him now. The final break almost never looks dramatic. It's rarely a shouting match or a walkout. For most people, it's something small enough to seem almost unimportant from the outside. You get asked to train the person who got the promotion you were passed over for. That's it. No storm, no scene. Just one quiet, cold thought that arrives out of nowhere. I'm done trying this hard for people who don't try for me. And once that thought lands, something shifts permanently in how you show up from that point forward. There's no dramatic resignation, no tears at your desk, no big final scene. What happens instead is quieter and honestly, a lot more powerful. You simply stop reaching. The part of you that used to defend good ideas, push back on bad decisions, and go the extra mile for the team, quietly steps back and doesn't come forward again. Here's a truth I wish more companies actually understood. They can buy your time. They can buy your attendance. They cannot buy the part of you that actually wants to try. That part was never for sale to begin with. It was a gift. And gifts can be taken back. You've probably heard this labeled quiet quitting somewhere online. And I think that label actually undersells what's happening. Quiet quitting sounds like someone deciding to do less. What I'm describing is someone finally deciding to do exactly what they're paid for. No more, no less. For years, they were doing extra without being asked, and calling it quitting when they stop is like calling it stealing when someone finally locks their own front door. The label makes it sound like the employee is the one breaking an agreement. Usually, they're the one who's just stopped pretending the agreement was ever fair to begin with. Now, this is the part people confuse constantly, and the difference matters more than you think. Burnout is exhaustion that still cares. You're tired, but some part of you still wants this to work. Still wants rest so you can come back and try again. What I'm describing here is different. It's emotional distance. It's the quiet sense that nothing you do will really matter anymore, no matter how well you do it. Your body still shows up. Your belief in the place does not. If something in your chest just tightened a little watching this, tell me in the comments which one you're actually feeling right now. Burnout or the quiet kind? I read those, and honestly, the pattern in the answers says a lot about where people really are. From the outside, Almost nothing looks different at first. You still hit your deadlines. You still show up on time. But you stop fixing things that aren't officially yours. You stop mentioning risks nobody asked about. You stop offering ideas for free. And your manager notices something is off, but almost always misreads exactly what it is. Hey, is everything okay? You seem a little less into it lately. If only they knew. Your extra effort had been invisible for years precisely because it was quietly holding things together behind the scenes. The moment it disappeared, everyone could suddenly feel the gap. Your manager thinks he's looking at a motivation problem. What he's actually looking at is the final bill for years of being taken for granted, arriving all at once, like a bill you forgot was ever due. And here's what it actually costs when this goes unaddressed. It's rarely just one person. Once a high performer quietly disengages, the people around them tend to notice, even if nobody says it out loud. The unofficial standard in the room quietly drops. The newer hires who are learning by watching that person stop having anyone to model themselves after. And when that person eventually leaves, they don't just take a job title with them. They take years of context, relationships, and quiet troubleshooting knowledge that was never written down anywhere. Replacing that isn't just a hiring cost. It's a competence gap that can take months, sometimes longer to even notice, let alone fix. And the frustrating part is, this was almost always preventable. Not with a bonus or a pizza party, but with the one thing that actually costs a company nothing. Listening the first time someone tried to tell them what was wrong. And here's the part that should genuinely concern anyone sitting in a leadership seat. This version of you, calm, quiet, checked out, is far more dangerous to a company than an angry employee ever was. Anger still carries hope inside it. An angry person is still saying, in their own way, I want this to get better. Someone who's gone quiet is saying something much colder. I've already accepted that it won't. That person isn't emotional about it anymore. They're calculating. What's the least I can do without triggering a real problem? What should I quietly keep as proof, just in case? What skills do I need to build so I can leave without looking back? Once someone reaches that stage, there's almost nothing left to negotiate. Now, here's where I want to slow down, because a lot of people take the wrong lesson from all this. This isn't permission to get lazy, petty, or careless at work. That path mostly ends up hurting you, not the company. The goal was never to start doing a worse job. The goal is to stop doing more than you're actually valued for. So if you feel this shift happening in yourself right now, here's what actually helps. Keep your standards high, but only where they protect your own future, not someone else's shortcuts. Stop absorbing problems that were never yours to fix in the first place. If a decision belongs to leadership, let the consequences belong to leadership too. Start writing things down, not to start a fight, just so the truth exists somewhere outside your own memory. And take all that energy you used to spend trying to convince a workplace to change and redirect it into yourself instead. Your skills, your resume, your options, your exit plan, whether you ever end up using it or not. One more thing, since I always get asked this. Writing things down for your own clarity is not the same as building a legal case, and I'm not a lawyer. So if you ever get to a point where you think this crosses into something legal, that's a conversation for an actual employment attorney, not a YouTube video. What I'm talking about here is simpler. It's just making sure you're not the only person who remembers what you actually did. So the next time you see someone at work who's gone quiet, who nods instead of speaking up, who leaves the second the clock allows it, don't assume they're just tired. You might be looking at someone who gave everything they had for a very long time and finally stopped. Not because they got weak, but because they were strong enough to carry something that was never fair to carry alone. And the place that kept taking without giving anything back usually ends up losing exactly what it refused to protect. If this hit closer to home than you expected, hit subscribe, because next week I'm breaking down the exact phrases managers use to keep good employees quiet and why falling for them costs you more than you think. And before you go, tell me in the comments, are you the angry one right now, or have you already gone quiet?